For many, Thanksgiving season is a time for family gatherings, bountiful food, and the disappointment of not seeing Charlie Brown on the TV this year. But there are some elements of the story behind Thanksgiving that your elementary school left out.
Here are some fun facts and common misconceptions about the story of the first Thanksgiving. The year was 1620, and 102 passengers had boarded a vessel named the Mayflower in Plymouth Harbor, intending to sail to the New World. The first interesting fact is not everyone aboard were pilgrims. Some were known as strangers, people seeking wealth in the New World, and some were the crew of the Mayflower. Another thing is we're not entirely sure of the date they set sail for the New World. Records suggest it's either September 6th or September 16th. Another fact is the Mayflower was not supposed to make the trip alone. The Mayflower was supposed to be accompanied by a speedwell, which was so old it had fought against the Spanish Armada in 1588. The sloop had to be abandoned when it wasn't seaworthy. When they first set out, it started taking on water not long after they left the harbor. It got overhauled, and whoever did the overhaul job royally screwed it up. The overcrowded Mayflower was then sent out alone, and the trip itself was rather uneventful except for one horrible storm midway through the journey that resulted in a cracked support beam at the midship. The beam couldn't be replaced due to its warp, so an iron screw was fixed into place, forcing the beam in position until they sighted land on November 11, 1620. Another common misconception is that the Mayflower party did not return to England during the storm because they had come too far and they had faith in their God. But the truth is they had actually exhausted all their financial resources and returning wasn't really an option at this point.
New Plymouth was not supposed to be the Pilgrims' landing site. For another month after sitting land, the Pilgrims would try and fail to travel south and would end up in the remains of the Patuxet tribe, a village that had been wiped out by plague not long before the settlers arrived. Another thing is, they may not have actually landed on Plymouth Rock. No record states they landed on any specific rock, or if they even landed on a rock. The Pilgrims would build over the abandoned land and try to start their colony, but it was now December, and the winter that year was especially brutal. 44 Pilgrims died that winter from starvation, disease, and exposure.
By spring of 1621, the Pilgrims had met up with several of the neighboring natives, including Samoset and Squanto, whose actual name was Tisquantum. He was the last surviving member of the Patuxet tribe, and had been kidnapped by Englishmen in 1614 and sold into slavery in Spain. He later made his way back to England and then back to Massachusetts, where he found his entire village had been wiped out by the plague and was taken in by the leader of the Wampanoag tribe.
Another misconception is that the natives and the Pilgrims made an alliance out of the good of each other's hearts. While the Pilgrims and the natives did indeed form an alliance, it was a strategic move, not an empathetic one. The Wampanoag tribe had been having its borders threatened by the neighboring tribes for a while now, and Chief Massasoit drafted a mutual defense treaty with the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims would help defend the Wampanoag voters, and the natives would help teach the Pilgrims how to farm and hunt on the land.
By November of 1621, the Pilgrims had a bountiful harvest of corns, beans, and squash. They decided to hold a 3-day-long feast in celebration of their survival and worship of their god. Among 90 natives even attended, bringing 5 freshly hunted deer, along with some turkey and other waterfowl that the Pilgrims had hunted recently, and the first Thanksgiving was made. It should be noted that this was not a Thanksgiving in the eyes of the Pilgrims. Thanksgiving to them was a day of fasting in honor and thanks for the Lord. It also wouldn't become an officially recognized holiday until George Washington decreed it. This was later made a national holiday by Abraham Lincoln.
We hope you enjoyed these fun facts and common misconceptions surrounding the story of Thanksgiving.
We hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving yourself.